Hey everyone, this is Homer Star Fan 13 and this is a little bit different today. I really want to do a video on my video game collection, so I thought what I'd do first is I'm going to do a little bit of a test of that by showcasing sort of like all the recent games that I've bought like last month, so the month of August. So we'll just see how this goes. I'm just going to go through them. I'll go in like order of the days I bought them. And yeah, we'll just see, let's just start it and let's not just get this over with. Let's not ramble too long. So let's start with on what day was it? So early this month I went to Weston-super-Mare and I went to a couple of the shops there to buy some new games, and yeah, let's just go through some. So first off we've got Soul Calibur Broken Destiny for the PSP. I really like the Soul Calibur series, and I recently rebought a PSP like late last year I think. So I'm just kind of sort of building up my PSP collection, and you know, really big fan of the Soul Calibur series. This has got Kratos in it, which I think people might not realise that there's a Soul Calibur game with Kratos in it. So yeah, really interesting game. And yeah, hopefully gonna get to play it more soon. Next up for the PS3 we've got the Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, which is, I think, is a collection of the two Nintendo games, Tales of Symphonia and Dawn of the New World. Yeah, this is a franchise I've always sort of been interested in. I remember when this game was like announced, I wanted it, but I just, for some reason, I never bought it. But I saw this there and thought, yeah, I think it'd be a good chance to try and get into it and sort of play through it. I've only sort of played a bit of the first one, but yeah, it's something I'm definitely going to try and get into. Next up, we've got Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time on PS2. Yeah, this is an interesting copy because it's saying not to be sold separately. Yeah, it's a shame that this was the only version I could find, but yeah, this is a game that I think a lot of people really like, and I really wanted to get into it. I know there's probably like a HD remake coming out soon, but from what I can gather, it doesn't look that great. Like, it doesn't really look that much different. So maybe I'll get the HD remake when it comes out. But yeah, this looks really good, and I'm only playing a little bit of it so far, but it seems fun. Okay, next up, so those were all games I bought at a local retro shop there, and these are the games I bought at CEX, which is, you know, everyone's favourite shop. So first off, we've got Showdown Legends of Wrestling. This is one of those like weird wrestling games where it uses legends that I don't think didn't have contracts with WWE at the time. So we've got this. We've got Hulk Hogan headlines. Yeah, of course Hulk Hogan's headlining. Hulk Hogan's not being in this game unless he's headlining, let's be honest. Yeah, it's got a really cool roster in it. DDP's in it. Warrior. Like, they were just none of these guys were like, I don't think any of these guys were signed to WWE at the time. So it's a really interesting game. I think this is just the last one I needed. I've got all three of them now. I've got the first two Legends of Wrestlings on. I've got one on PS2 and one on GameCube. So yeah, I'm just happy to find these sort of, you'll be seeing a lot of these are sort of like games that I'm trying to get for my collections. Like, I'm really getting into game collecting lately, and the whole point is that I want to get like games in series, and one of the series I want to do is wrestling, and just like not just WWE but like all different kinds of wrestling. In fact, speaking of that, next one I got is SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 on PSP. Again, just building up a PSP collection. Honestly, the PSP games aren't that bad. They're really good. They're really good ways of like taking the console games and putting them on PSP. They're actually really good ports of them. And I think you should, if you've got a PSP and you like sort of wrestling, I'd recommend getting these games because they're really good sort of handheld versions of them. I mean, I don't know if this game is like, I think this game's not the best of the SmackDown vs. Raw series. It's nostalgic for me because this was the first game I got on my PS3, but I'll probably mention that more when I do my PS3 sort of video. But yeah, and this is the only SmackDown vs. Raw game on PSP that you'll see. I've got another one later. And the last thing I bought at Western was this Star Wars The Clone Wars Lightsaber Duels on Nintendo Wii. I played one game of this, and yep, you've got to waggle like this. It's kind of like playing with a lightsaber. It's kind of like using a lightsaber, but with someone who's never used a lightsaber before. It's just waggling all over, but that's kind of the charm. That's kind of why I wanted it. Again, I want to get all the Star Wars games, and I also really want to get into the Clone Wars show. For about the last few years, I've said to myself, I'm going to watch the Clone Wars. I started watching the Clone Wars, and then I stopped watching it again. One day I will watch all of them, but in fact, and I can guarantee by next year, still won't have watched it. Yeah, like there are so many things in my backlog to watch. Alright, so next up we've just got games that I went to my local retro shop and my local CEX to just buy a couple of stuff. So yeah. Alright, we'll start with the other. Hold on. So let's start off with the stuff I bought at the retro shop. Let's get this in order. So I've got these two handheld games. I've got actually, yeah, we'll start with the other wrestling game. We've got WWF WrestleMania for the 2000 for the Game Boy Color. I've got the console version of this, and yeah, these handheld games are really interesting. It's just obviously they're not great, they're not great versions, but there's still some like love to be had by playing these sort of games. It's just like a blast from the past, you know, seeing what these games were like back then. And the other handheld game I've got is Banjo Pilot, because I really want to get into the I really want to get into the Banjo-Kazooie series. I've got the first Banjo-Kazooie game on Nintendo Switch Online, so I wanted to get this one. There's the other GBA game I want to get, and then there's the other N64 game. I unfortunately don't have an Xbox, so I can't get Nuts and Bolts or the Rare Replay, which sucks. Like I would legit buy an Xbox One just to get Rare Replay, but unfortunately I can't. And yeah, this is an alright game. It's a simple racing game, simple GBA racing game, but you know, it's got Banjo-Kazooie in it. That's wonderful. We all love Banjo-Kazooie. Next up, we've got an interesting PS1 game. It's Incredible Crisis. This is a really wacky, weird game. It's kind of like a sort of mini-game-y compilation. Oh, ignore that. Most frustrating part about buying games in like retro shops and CEX and that is they're filled with stickers, and trying to take them off can just be so frustrating. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, Incredible Crisis, it really is just like a really weird, wacky-ish sort of game. But it is quite fun, like it's got sort of mini games in it. It's made by Tidus, probably the best game they ever made. But yeah, like I remember seeing this years ago. I think it was like on a very old Guru Larry video. It was like top 10 wacky-ish Japanese games, and just it always sort of stuck out to me. And I think I've always wanted this game, so when I found out there was a PS1 port, I decided to sort of get it. And yeah, I spotted it at my retro shop, and yeah, it's really interesting. I'd recommend you try and track a copy of this down. It's fun. Alright, next one. So I'm going to do these two together. The first one is one I got at the retro shop, and the other one is one I got at CEX. And it's so at the retro shop I got FIFA 06 for PS2, and I got FIFA 09 All Play for Nintendo Wii. So I just realised it's the same cover styles on both. That's funny. I never noticed that. So yeah, the reason why I bought these two games is you may be wondering, oh, why did you buy FIFA? It's like, I've got a challenge that I want to do. Yeah, you can see those. I've got a little challenge I want to do. And it is that I want to buy a FIFA game on every console, and I want to see how different they all are. I want to see, like, if the PS2 versions and the Wii versions are different, and then I want to see how different the PS2 versions are to the PS5 and PS4 versions. And then I also want to have like the Game Boy DS, PSP versions as well. Just because I thought it could be a fun little sort of experiment to see how different all these games are. And these are the first two I've gotten in this thing. I've got one of the FIFAs on PS5. My brother's allowed me to take one of his PS4 games. And strangely enough, I've got one on the Game Boy Advance. So those are the ones I've got so far, so I still need to get a couple of the others. But anyways, I'm not picky about any of the ones I want to get, except for this one. And that's only because this is the one I had when I was younger. And the whole point is that I wanted to buy... If I'm going to get these games, I want to get ones that I actually remember having when I was younger. And this is one that... This is the nostalgic one for me. And going back to it, yeah, for love of nostalgia, it is a good game. And I love all the extra... Because you want to know what was great about this? It had extra stuff in it. Like, there were like little extra modes, like there's little extra videos you can watch. Like, it's got like a history of FIFA in it, and like the memorable moments from like football past. So it's a really, really good version. I would say that this is probably the best FIFA in my opinion. And yeah, speaking of, and then they've got FIFA 09 on the Wii. Do you know what? Not terrible. It's obviously nowhere near as good as the PS3 versions, but it is still somewhat fascinating. And I'll say this, don't get excited about that mode, because I assumed it was going to be a mode where you play as your Miis. you play as one of your Miis, but all the other Miis are just generic Miis and like Miis based on footballers. And that was a real disappointment because the idea that you could have had a whole sort of football match with your Miis was fantastic, but then it's not that, which is a shame. But yeah, I'll definitely play. The Wii versions aren't terrible, but obviously they're the weakest versions of all the FIFA games. Okay, another wrestling PSP game, SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. Again, just getting all the games. This is the first one of the ones I bought that I actually owned when I was younger. I think now the only two I need to get are SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 and SmackDown vs. Raw 2011. Those are the only ones I need to get, and then I've got all of them. As I said, PSP versions are pretty good. Don't need to say anything else. And last one I got from CEX is Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. I kind of want to get into the classic Call of Duty games because, I don't know, I guess the newer Call of Duties just don't feel as fun anymore. Like, I definitely remember like my brother playing these games a lot, and I think it was because one of the PlayStation Pluses one year was Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, and I wanted to get Modern Warfare Remastered as well because this is just a fun... This is like always considered to be the best Call of Duty, and I would like to sort of actually play the fun games. And yeah, I played a bit of it. Yeah, they're good games. They are good games. I feel like I was unfortunately around the time these games came out, I was in that sort of camp of like, Call of Duty is all bad, and it's like I regret those days now because these are good games, and I want to sort of actually sort of one of those things like you never know what you have until it's gone, and modern Call of Duty is just not as the passion just doesn't seem to be there anymore. It's just not as good as they used to be. I mean, I say this as if I play them. I don't, but you know what I mean. They don't seem as special anymore. These next two are a bit different. These aren't games I went out and bought in the shops. I bought these online because they're games I've wanted and I haven't been able to find them, and it's because I want to do them for a video one day. And that's so. First off, we got Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction for PS1. Had this game when I was younger and I absolutely loved it. I don't think it's very good now. This is it's kind of like a sort of, I guess you would say, Power Stone kind of fighter, but like not as fun as Power Stone would be. But like, yeah, Powerpuff Girls, the Powerpuff Girls. Because my plan is I want to do a kind of like a sort of Cartoon Network games marathon type thing, and these were like the last two games I needed to get. So the other game I needed to get, so as you can see, is Johnny Bravo Datorama. And if you notice that little thing there, you know what that is. That's Blast. And these are like the worst developers for PlayStation 2. Like they're legitimately one of the worst like companies on PS2, UK developers. They're basically the UK version of LJN, It's basically the way to say it. They make just crappy licensed games. And honestly, this isn't that bad. This is probably the best one they've done of the ones I've played. But they've made some awful games. Like they made the Little Britain video game. They made Mr. Bean the game. What else did they make? Oh, they made a Wacky Races game, which is just awful. Legitimately one of the worst racing games I've ever played. And what's weird, I think this game came out in does it say? Hold on, you can just check. Focus. No, it's not going to focus, is it? This is 2008, 2009-ish, I guess, but I know full well Johnny Bravo was not airing at this time, so it makes you wonder who this game was even made for, because clearly people, this is going to be for kids, because they don't know what Johnny Bravo is. But yeah, not a good game. Ooh, sorry. As you can tell, I'm very new to this, so last ones, these are games that I wasn't expecting to go to see. This is what actually games I bought yesterday. I wasn't expecting to go to CEX, but we kind of went to town sort of randomly, and we decided I decided to just pop in for a little bit. So we'll have a look at some of the games. So we got this DS game. It's focus. There we go. Club Penguin, Elite Penguin Force. I think this game is. I loved Club Penguin, a lot of nostalgia for it, so I wanted to get all the Club Penguin games. I've got the Wii game, and I've got this game, and there's just two more games. I mean, there's one more game I need to get, and then that's it. But yeah, I guess my way of saying it is it's kind of like it's a point-and-click-ish game. I would say it's kind of like a putt-putt type thing, from the Humongous Entertainment game era. Nowhere as good or charming as those games, but I think if you were a child and you had nostalgia for Club Penguin. I think you'd find some fun with it, like getting to go around Club Penguin sort of area is fun. But I can't see myself sort of enjoying it too much. It's just one of those games I just want because it's Club Penguin for the collection and that. So these next two are games I've rebought that I had when I was younger. First off, we've got Spartan Total Warrior. This is a really interesting game. I don't think anyone ever really talks about this. Maybe by Sega apparently. I never really knew that. It's kind of like a sort of hack and slashy type game. Maybe this was them trying to get into the God of War like area. Like they were trying to like capitalize on that. I don't know if this came out before or after God of War. I have to look that up. Just apparently it's from the guys who did Total War. That's like a strategy game, isn't it? This is definitely not a strategy game. This is a hack and slash. But yeah, I remember having a lot of fun with this. I played it a little bit earlier, a little bit of it yesterday, and yeah, it's still alright. I can't see this winning like any game of the years or something. I can't see anyone sort of saying this is their favourite game ever, but you know, not too bad. And last game we've got is another game I had when I was younger, Sega Rally. Just a nice little fun arcadey styled racing game. This is actually one of the first PS3 games I ever bought. Well, because this came with my PS3, I think it was 4 games. It was this, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, Final Fantasy 2008, and there's a fourth game that I can't remember. I genuinely cannot remember what the other game was. But yeah, it's a fun little sort of arcade style game. Had a bit of fun with it, and I don't know why I got rid of it, because it's kind of like the sort of arcade rally games that Sega made, like Sega Rally Championships, which are really fun. So yeah, I'm glad I got this back. It seems like it'll be fun, and I'm really going to enjoy it. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about. There's one more thing I bought, and this isn't a game, this is a DVD, but I spotted this in CEX, and I was like, I'm absolutely picking this up. And that is The Self-Destruction of Ultimate Warrior. Now, if you've never heard of this DVD is fascinating, because this is basically the WWE burying the Ultimate Warrior. Like, this is a slam piece. It is them focusing all this DVD insulting and making fun of the Ultimate Warrior. And considering how they treat the Ultimate Warrior now, this is going to be a fascinating watch. Like, I haven't seen it yet, I haven't watched it yet, but I know I need to sort of sit down and watch this, because it is going to be fascinating to watch the WWE. Ooh, I'm so sorry, I've moved the camera. But it's going to be fascinating to watch this and see how WWE acted to the Ultimate Warrior before things got friendly with him. In fact, fun fact, they were going to do a Bret Hart version of this as well. I think it was going to be called like Screw the Bret Hart Story, but then Bret Hart got involved and they actually made a better video. But they actually did film interviews for it. They had like interviews with like Hulk Hogan and people like that, and I think those interviews are lost media now. But like, it's so fascinating to see what that would have looked like. So yeah, I cannot wait to watch this and see how many lies these guys come up with about the Ultimate Warrior. So yeah, that's pretty much all the games I bought. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, then I will hopefully do a whole video about my game collection in the future. So, bye everyone.